Hi, I'm Mark Tyrrell of Uncommon Knowledge and hypnosisdownloads.com, and welcome to 7 Steps to Stop a Panic Attack. Tried and tested ways to stop panic attacks spoiling your life. Now, this is a description of a client of mine. She sat in her car and sobbed. This is what she told me. The panic had passed, but she was exhausted and terrified it would start up again. That's the thing about panic attacks. They come and go quickly, usually building to their peak within 10 minutes, but while they last, they're intense and exhausting. And this client said, one moment I was driving along thinking about work, the next I felt like I was going to die. I got really hot, I started breathing hard, I began to sweat, I became tearful, and my pounding heart felt like I was going to burst. She trembled as she spoke to me. Even recalling the panic attack made her feel tearful, almost as if she was reliving it. That had been Kathy's, I'll call her Kathy, that had been her first panic attack a few months before she came to see me. And since then, she'd had many more. And she said, I used to be bubbly and fun-loving and confident. Now I don't want to go out in case I panic. It's really ruining my life. But when you overcome panic attacks, you get your life back. Those horrible feelings either go completely or become easily controllable. So you take control of yourself in that way. You become the boss of the panic, not the other way around. But Kathy really didn't believe her panic attacks would ever stop because they felt so powerful, so all-encompassing. She needed reassurance fast. So what causes panic attacks? Kathy was at a loss, and she said to me, why me? Why if I got these panic attacks? Why did I have to start having them? Panic attacks often start during times of higher than normal stress. It could be a build-up of many things. The high background stress can overspill into panic. Okay, so you're carrying too much stress, trip over slightly, and the panic easily overflows. Kathy's panic attack started over a career change. Her mother was ill and she was having problems in her relationship. So she was carrying around a big burden of stress. One little trip and all that stress spilled over. She'd been driving along, fretting about her new job, and suddenly all that stress bubbled over and she panicked. And she said, I actually felt more terrified than I'd ever felt in my life, but I didn't know what I was terrified of. But let's look at the term panic attack, because I reckon those are very unhelpful words. It's a very unhelpful metaphor for people who are anxious. Panic attacks is really a cruel label. Panic attack is actually a misnomer, I told her. It's a wrong metaphor. Since nothing is attacked, a house alarm doesn't attack the house, it's protecting, but it can sound when it doesn't need to sound. And that's all that's happening here. Stopping panic attacks isn't about getting rid of all panic, it's about aligning it so it only happens when it really needs to happen, when your body really needs to exercise hard in the face of threat. The scary changes, fast breathing, sweating, raised heartbeat, shaking, would all feel perfectly natural if you were running in the gym. Really, a panic attack is the body behaving as if it's exercising when it's not exercising. It's an inappropriate exercise response, which is a better description than the metaphor of a panic attack, which is, I think, a horrible phrase. All the weird symptoms are completely normal in the right circumstances. Fast breathing, raised pulse. Your body produces these responses to help you exercise, to help you run away from a lion or fight the lion. It only feels weird if you're not exercising when these adaptations happen. Kathy said that when she panicked, she got sweaty palms. And this in itself is adaptive. When the sweat dries, you'll have better grip in your hands to climb trees away from predators or to hold weapons. Panic often produces the feeling of the need to vomit or defecate. And the reason for that is that if you were covered in those substances, that would put off a potential predator from eating you. So these are all, in very extreme circumstances, useful reactions. But if they happen when we're driving or sitting in a restaurant or taking the kids to school or at a meeting at work, then of course they feel weird. Kathy felt reassured that she wasn't crazy, that in their place, panic attacks are normal, even useful. We need to have a very instant exercise response very occasionally in life. After looking at some of the ways she could stop panicking about panic attacks, we looked at what we could do to actually stop them. Let the panic attack know who's boss. Number one, stopping panic attacks, or so-called panic attacks, is all about taking back control of your mind and body. To help beat panic attacks, I want you to think about them in a very specific way, I told Kathy. Panic is powerful, but stupid. It's all muscle and no brains. We're all born with the capacity to panic, but panic is blind. That means it doesn't know what to fear, so it takes its lead from you. If you avoid or run from something, say the library in which the panic attack happens, then your panic response will tag that place as threatening. If the panic gets just one hint, though, that a situation is really not dangerous, it will call back its big investment of energy. Breathing will slow down again, blood pressure will return to normal, the sweat response will calm down, tingling in the arm that you might have had from the overbreathing will stop, and clear thought will return. Like firefighters returning to their depot after discovering that it was a false alarm all along. Okay, don't want to invest all those resources when there's nothing actually happening. So you can let your panic know it's not needed by practicing the next tip. Tip number 2, stop running to stop panic attacks. If you panic in a supermarket, for example, and flee the scene, then your panic response will conclude that the supermarket holds life-threatening horrors because you ran away from it. So surely it must genuinely be threatening. It will try to be more helpful to you by spreading the fear to perhaps all supermarkets or even all situations that vaguely remind you of supermarkets that have lots of people in them, just a bit like supermarkets. If you panic but stay in the situation, however, until you calm down again, your panic response will learn that it's not the situation causing the panic. So that might feel uncomfortable, but just to stay in the situation until the panic subsides. In nature, we avoid what's dangerous, and the more you avoid something, the bigger the fear builds. The more normal you act, the more panic gets the message it's not needed. Actually, nothing's happened here, nothing's occurred. I'm beginning to suspect this isn't really a life-threatening situation at all, is what your unconscious mind will do. By imagining being in a situation in which you fear you might panic whilst you're relaxed, you teach your mind and body to feel relaxed about being in the situation for real. The next tip shows you how to control breathing. Often the first physical change before a panic attack starts. So research found that people's breathing altered about half an hour before they actually had a panic attack, and of course they weren't aware of that alteration. So tip number 3, a breath of fresh air. When we panic, we breathe quickly and high in the chest. This is because your body wrongly assumes it needs to exercise hard, sprint or fight, so breathes as if you were running hard, okay, which feels really weird if you're not running. When we breathe in this way, when we're not exercising, we call it hyperventilation. Hyperventilation is not serious, but it feels dramatic. Okay, like the fast spin on a washing machine that looks really dramatic and you wonder what's going on, but actually it's just part of a normal cycle of what the machine does. So symptoms of hyperventilation, or characteristics of it, include lightheadedness, giddiness, shortness of breath, heart palpitations, and feelings of weakness, and sometimes a bit of tingling as well. And Kathy said, yes, I feel like I can't breathe in these times. It may feel as if you haven't got enough air, but the feeling actually occurs because you're taking in too much air. Okay, this is something unexpected perhaps. So to switch off hyperventilation, you can hold your breath, okay, just for a few seconds. So really? That sounds kind of weird, but seriously, holding the breath for as long as you comfortably can will prevent the dissipation of carbon dioxide. The feeling of not having enough air isn't caused by not breathing in enough oxygen, but by breathing out too much oxygen when you breathe out. So holding the in-breath prevents you breathing out too much air. Okay, a period of 10 to 15 seconds repeated a few times is sufficient to reset your breathing and stop the hyperventilation in its tracks. Then, once you've done that, you can do deep diaphragmatic breathing. Slow down, deep breathing, right down to the bottom of the lungs. Okay, and then breathing should be through the nose, with the out-breath taking longer than the in-breath. Okay, so you can quick count in your mind to 7 as you breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and quick count to 11 as you breathe out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's called 7-11 breathing. Practice this every day to get very good at relaxed breathing, because it's impossible to breathe like this and panic at the same time. It's like putting the handbrake on of a car and revving the engine. The car ain't going anywhere. Number 4, stop panic attacks by acting normally. Act normal. So Kathy, if you do have another panic attack, I said, I want you to make a conscious effort to carry on as if nothing out of the ordinary is happening. Call the panic's bluff. So pretty soon the panic will get bored, as it were, realize it's not actually needed, and drift away. There's nothing to see here, nothing's going on. I'm just going to ignore that until it stops. You wouldn't carry on talking if a hungry lion was about to pounce on you. So keep talking. Keep acting as if nothing untoward is happening, because nothing untoward is happening. If I'm mugged and panic, I'm not having a panic attack, I'm just responding appropriately. Okay. You may not feel like acting normal, but remember your panic is pretty dumb, even if you have a PhD in astrophysics, and it's looking for cues from you as to whether it's needed or not, because really panic is your servant. With that in mind, on to the next tip. So tip number 5, keep thinking. Keep thinking or doing something that is methodical. During times when panic is really required, a hungry lion, for example, coming right at you, the thinking part of your brain becomes much less active. And this happens because we need to become purely physical to run or to fight. Okay. Your thinking needs to become all or nothing. But if you purposefully start counting backwards from 100 in jumps of 3, so 100, 97, 94, 91, etc., you force your thinking brain to work, which actually dilutes the panic response. So the more you think, the less you panic. You've probably experienced panicking and not being able to think. You can barely remember your own name, okay, because fight or flight wants you just to be physical. So making yourself do a crossword or read the paper, even grading your own anxiety from 1 to 10, all force your thinking brain to work, which again sends the message, this is not a real emergency, so butt out. So Kathy actually did this. She thought she might panic again when driving, so she started to count backwards and very soon found that she felt normal again. Okay, she sort of short-circuited the unnecessary exercise response that she certainly didn't need when sitting in a car. Tip number 6, use the aware technique. I gave Kathy a little card we call the aware card, and you can make one for yourself. And she was to carry it around with her at all times, and if she started to feel panicky, to take it out, read it, and follow the simple instructions. So A, on the acronym AWARE, stands for accept the anxiety. Don't try to fight it. W stands for watch the anxiety. Imagine it's outside of you and you're just observing it. Okay, like a lily pad drifting past on the surface of a river. The next A stands for act normal. Carry on as if nothing is happening. Panic will soon get bored and realize there's not a real emergency. R stands for repeat the above steps until you start to relax again. And E stands for expect the best. It will pass quicker and quicker the more times you do this. So write these steps down on a card, and if you ever feel you might panic unnecessarily, take them out, follow them, and you'll soon calm down again. Now the last tip is perhaps the most powerful. 7. Prepare not to panic. So Kathy said, this is all good advice, and I do feel a bit better, but in the heat of the moment, I'll know I'll forget all of this. So this is why I worked hypnotically with Kathy. Sure, she could use all the stuff that I've talked about here, and she did, but we wanted her mind and body to naturally and automatically feel calm without her having to try too hard to feel calm in these situations. Mental rehearsal, whilst very relaxed, helps automatically rejig your responses so that calm naturally starts to replace panic. You just start to find you naturally feel more relaxed, and that can be a pleasant surprise. The best way to do this is to relax deeply with your eyes closed. Imagine being in a situation in which you fear you might panic or have panicked before, and just see yourself controlling it, even enjoying the situation and forgetting to think about panic. And this is providing a blueprint, a lead for your unconscious mind. Panic is fueled by misuse of the imagination, so learn to use your imagination productively. Your panic attacks can be stopped in their tracks. In fact, they want to be stopped. They're looking for an excuse. Your unconscious mind is looking for an excuse not to waste resources. Your body doesn't want to waste needless energy. So use these 7 tips and techniques, and before long, you'll have your first experience of stopping a panic attack before it even gets started. It might begin to happen, and then you stop it, and that's a great feeling of power and autonomy and a confidence boost, and that will be a very good feeling indeed. For Kathy, panic attacks were a phase in her life, a phase that has now stopped. So I hope you found that useful, and if you did, please hit like and subscribe, and if you want to hear when my next video is published, hit the notification bell below. I'm Mark Tyrrell of Uncommon Knowledge and hypnosisdownloads.com, and if you'd like to try some of my personal development products, head over to hypnosisdownloads.com and take a look around. And thanks for watching.